So the best way to talk about the Cal Office of Small Business Administration microgrants is to just really go through our website. Our website has a lot of the ground rules around it, especially if you go down here at the FAQ. But to save time, really the best way to learn about this grant is to go through our eligibility quiz. It'll take less than 5 minutes to go through it. So I'm just going to go through it and pretend I am myself applying. So first thing we got to do is put in your name. This is all kind of basic information. And then the first thing we're going to ask is, in 2019, did you have a side hustle or a small business? So, we emphasize side hustle because sometimes people don't think about what they're doing to generate income as a business. So sometimes people are DJs, but they don't consider that a business. But in the state of California, that would qualify as a profession that could receive this grant. If you were doing childcare on the side, that would qualify. If you were doing gardening on the side, that would qualify. If you were making like a special apple pie and selling it at a farmer's market, that would qualify. If you're like a visual artist and someone commissioned you to make a portrait, that would qualify. Even if you're like a Uber or Lyft driver, this would qualify as a small business or a side hustle. If you're doing like Instacart, that would qualify. So it's pretty broad. So I'm going to say yes to continue on. And typically small businesses have a name, but if you just had a side hustle, like Uber driving, you can just put Uber. This is not a disqualifier if you have no name for it. Then you got to put in your email address so we can contact you. And if you have a business or IG handle, business website or IG handle, this is where you would put it. So for this, I would put Cultivate Labs as my IG handle. And you are also allowed, okay, and an important thing is, how much money did you make on your small business or side hustle? To qualify for this grant, it's got to be $50,000 or less. And so what we mean by revenue, this is the money that came in before you subtracted buying ingredients, paying for rent, gas, staffing, anything like that. It's the top line, it's the gross, it's not your profit in the bottom. So to continue on, I'm going to say yes, I made less than 50,000. If you made more, then you're not going to be qualified. And then this is the most important thing. This trips people up. Did you report this revenue to the IRS with the Schedule C? So there's a lot of different ways to report your revenue. Typically, like if you're a DJ and you got hired by a corporation, they would typically give you a 1099 form at the end of the year stating that we paid you $500 to DJ. If you were a Uber or Lyft driver, those apps would send you a 1099. And so when you get those 1099s, typically what you do on your personal taxes, there's a thing called Schedule C, and this is where you would report this income. If you don't report this income, you won't be qualified for this grant because this is the only way for the government to verify you made $50,000 or less. There are going to be other cases where I didn't report this on my personal income because I actually have like an LLC or small corporation. So you would actually report that in your end of the year filing as your LLC, and that's totally fine to do it that way. If you had an S Corp and you did it in your end of the year filing, you could do it that way as well. And if you need to kind of review this information I talked about, we've got this video of me talking about that. So for the sake of qualifying for this grant, I'm going to say, yes, I did report this. Another key requirement for this grant is you have to have less than 5 full-time employees. So I'm going to say, yes, I didn't have 5 full-time employees. If you say no, then you're not going to be qualified. The other thing in this grant is sometimes, when you're making your ends meet as like, a up and coming DJ, you might actually have a full-time job or a part-time job on the side, and that's allowed. So what we mean by like a full-time or part-time job, in addition to your side hustle or small businesses, like these are the kind of jobs where you're on payroll and you get a pay stub, and at the end of the year you get a W-2, and that W-2 is the basis of how you file your 1040 taxes at the end. So in this case, I'm going to say yes. I also had a full-time, part-time job where I was on payroll. And then the key is, in your full or part-time job, did you make $50,001 or more a year? If you say yes, I made that amount, you actually don't qualify, because then what this means to this grant is your full-time or part-time job was bringing in more income than your side hustle. For this grant, your side hustle has to make more money. So I'm going to say, to be qualified, no, I made less than $50,000. Another key thing to qualify and be eligible for this grant is you need to have a social security number. If you don't have a social security number and you are still filing your taxes, typically you would have a ITIN number. So in this purpose, I'm going to say yes, so we can continue on. Another important thing is, did you receive a California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant? So if you already received a relief grant from the state of California, you would not qualify. So in this purpose, I'm going to say no, I've never received any kind of small business COVID relief grant. And don't lie, because they will verify later on if you got a grant or not from the state of California. So I'm going to say no. And here's the most important thing. So to qualify for this grant, you have to self-attest and be truthful and say that the pandemic had an adverse effect to my side hustle or small business to the point that my revenues dropped or my sales dropped 10% or more. In most cases, a lot of people were really affected by the pandemic, so I'm going to say yes. And another important thing is, what is the status of your small business side hustle? Is it A, it's currently closed and I don't plan to reopen? Is it B, it's currently closed, but I will reopen soon? Or C, my business is still operating? To qualify for this grant, you have to have an operating business, which is C, or a business that's closed, but you plan to reopen it someday. So I'm going to say, yes, my business is still operating. And this is the very last question. Is your business currently registered in the city and county of San Francisco? So as a business, sometimes, like, let's say I do pop-ups and farmers market, but my farmers market, there's one in San Francisco, but I do one in San Mateo. I do one in Berkeley. That's totally fine. Your business can move around. You can sell goods to places outside of San Francisco, but the key thing is the business needs to be registered in the city and county of San Francisco. There is an exemption. If you haven't done it yet, you still qualify. So I'm going to say, no, it's not registered. We will allow you to continue on with the process, but before we issue you the grant money, you actually have to go and register with the city of San Francisco. So this is going to be a tentative. You're pre-qualified, but you must register your business. Are there any questions before I go forward with the last step?
None on my end. It actually looks like I don't qualify, so I may drop off the call, Desi, if that's all right.
Okay. What question do you think disqualified you, just to make sure?
That I definitely made more than 50,000.
Okay. Well,
and
yeah,
and I'm not registered in the city and county of San Francisco. I'm registered out in I believe that year I was registered in Alameda.
Okay,
And then, yeah, so I would not qualify for this, but thank you so much. This is super helpful.
cool. Okay. How about you, Casey?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I qualify either, only because the business I would be putting on the application would be the newspaper I started, which makes no income at all.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's volunteer based and we're not registered because I'm still learning how to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if
Yeah.
I would qualify for this.
Actually, if you had zero income, it would qualify as long as you reported on your taxes that it was zero income and any other sources of income like a part-time job was also
Mhm.
zero.
And does it only have to be from 2019? Because this was started in 2022,
Yeah,
though
start date
though
has
it
to
was
be,
in the works in 2019.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it had to have been operating in 2019.
Okay. Well, it's still good to learn about it, but yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Okay, yeah. So you can drop off, and anyone who's watching, let's say you continue on and register your business. When you go back to this quiz, eventually, when you answer the right questions, we will shoot you to our partner agency, Meta, and this is where the actual full-on application is. And this, you would click here, and then you would fill out all the information here. And this is when you would actually upload documents like your government ID, your personal taxes with the Schedule C that you reported the business income, or any other kind of end of the year small business filings that you reported the income. You would also upload your San Francisco business registration if you already did it. If you haven't, it's okay. You can still continue to apply. And then lastly, you're going to upload a voided check, because once our partner Meta verifies everything, they're going to send you an electronic disbursement for the $2,500 grant. And it's that easy. It'll only take you less than 5 minutes to go through our eligibility quiz. And if you have everything ready to go, it'll take you probably about 5 minutes to go through the online application with Meta. And then I believe the money will be in your bank probably by the end of September. So in this window, the all applications are due at the end of the month, August 30th. They're going to go through the verification process. If you haven't registered for this as a business in the city and county of San Francisco, do it. And then they'll reach out to you and ask you about that. And then once that's all cleared, you should get your money by the end of September. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to reach us online. My email is desi@cultivatelabs.org. There's also a contact form on our website, and good luck. We have 80 of these to give out. This is not competitive. This is all just about being eligible and checking off the boxes, and we want to get this money out to the community. So if you have any friends who had side hustles or micro businesses or small businesses who you think could qualify, definitely send them to our website, which is seednetwork.biz. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to be signing off.